how do leading lenders use data to improve the customer journey, right? We're talking about making important connections with your customers, doing it in a timely way, doing it in a way that's respectful and in service of your customer, right? Not to spam them, but in service of them. And so you've heard our panel already start talking about where they are and how, Corey needs a blanket because he's cold in Virginia. Let me introduce them properly. My name is Alex Kutsishin, co-founder CEO here at Sales Boomerang. I will be moderating, but also part of the conversation here. In the middle there with the vest, but not maybe even wearing a vest in that picture, Corey Shelton, SVP Marketing at Atlantic Coast Mortgage. Corey, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And of course, again, probably needs no introduction, but we'll introduce him anyway. Kenon Chen is here. Let us do a quick spotlight for Corey and Atlantic Coast. And Corey's going to have a lot to add. He's got a lot of insights into using data. As you can see, Corey is very, very technical and methodical in his approach. Look at the background on his screen. It's well done. Everyone, before we got started, we took notes saying we need something like that. So that's really well done. Corey, just a quick background on Atlantic Coast. I know we're only showing 2019 and 2020. I bet if we went back to 2018 and 2017, those numbers would look smaller and smaller because you guys have grown really quickly in such a short amount of time. Do you want to give a little shout out and little insights as to who Atlantic Coast is, what you guys do, and how you guys got here, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, so we've been around for since 2011. And just to give a quick overview, like you mentioned, Alex, I think we were doing well. 2020 was an extremely big year for us. And I think, a lot of times with all the refis that were happening last year, it's one of those things where you may see people kind of shrink back into maybe those numbers they were doing before. I would say that we're on pace right now to do similar numbers that we did last year, which I think is just a testament to the overall service that our loan officers provide to our borrowers and our clients. And, for us, one of our biggest things is really making sure that we're the good news company, making sure that we're there to provide, like you mentioned earlier. I think that the humanistic, value-focused piece of it is one of the biggest things. I think it's also one of the things that might be lacking when people are starting to talk about data and technology, because then it starts to become a conversation around how can you remove the element. And I think that that's one of the key areas that has been part of our success, is really figuring out how to leverage technology to really complement the humanistic piece of it, which again kind of speaks to the numbers that we have even beyond last year. And like I said, we're on track right now for this year to do similar numbers to what we did last year, which, seeing how refis have kind of shrunk back a little bit, or maybe a lot in some instances, it's a pretty big testament to, I think, how great of a job our team is doing to continue building, the markets that we're in. So really excited about where we're at, where we're headed.
Awesome. And by the way, so everyone understands, this is why Corey's here, because he's going to explain how this year they're going to do similar numbers, I believe, maybe even go a little bit above last year's numbers from what I was hearing, and how you're taking this approach of technology to support humans into 2022 and beyond, and how the coming changes don't really scare you guys, but you're actually looking forward to it. And so I'm excited. We're excited to unpack that for everyone here, because I'm sure some of the folks on this call are wondering, what do we do next year and the year after that? Everyone is saying we need to be, things are contracting. And so we're gonna unpack all of those things, and Corey's going to shine some light as to how they're doing it and how we're supporting Corey and his team. And so, Kenon, this is something that you had put into this presentation. I love this because this talks about the market, and it does it in a way that most people haven't heard from before. So I love how you're going to present where the market is and where it was and where it is now. So why don't you share with everybody what we're looking at?
Yeah, so for sure, we're at Clear Capital. We're very passionate about property data, passionate about providing good analysis and understanding of that property data, so you can make accurate, quick decisions. And so we track what's happening with the market. As we take a look at this graph here, I think a couple things really stand out as to what's been going on with listings in the U.S. Number one is that in the beginning of the year, we had this sort of unprecedented trend that happened, which is instead of the normal run up to the spring season, to the buying season, where you have more and more inventory, showing up on the market, we went the opposite direction. For one of the first times in history, we went down from January, into the spring. But the good news is that after that sort of slow start, we saw things turn around, and now we're at this really great, sort of increase of listings available on the market. But it's behind demand, right? So everyone knows that we have really rapid home price appreciation right now, and I think this chart kind of shows that, like, we just haven't caught up yet, and that rundown at the beginning of the year certainly contributed to that. And when you talk about going into next year and not being so much concerned maybe about what's going to happen, one of the things that we're not concerned about is the homes that are currently in forbearance. For GSE loans, that's about 1.7 million mortgages that are currently in forbearance. We just don't expect those to hit the market all at once, or hit the market in a way that would really change the dynamics of what's happening right now, because of of course, government programs, but also the amount of equity that's there.
Yes. Yeah. Beautiful. And again, the way that you present that report, many of us have been on calls or been at events or looked things up, and everyone has a different way to talk about where the market's been, where it's going. I love how you just show that simply by listings and properties going on and off the market. I love that. It gives you a clear vision. It's black and white that way. And let's keep going. This is also a really interesting view, and I love how Clear Capital looks at data. Again, what you guys will find, for those of you that don't know Clear Capital, this is the beauty of who they are and what they bring to a relationship with lenders, is their approach to data. Not the fact that they have data, but their approach to it. You can see this just the second screen from Clear Capital, and it already looks different than things that we've seen before. So why don't we jump into this too, Kenon?
Yeah. So this is our home price index and report. One of the things that we try to do is, for all of our models, we really do focus on recency. And I think this is how we want to help our lender clients, again, make good decisions. A number of HPIs out there get refreshed once a month or once a quarter. We're refreshing this every 2 weeks based on a cut of near real-time data right in front of it. So we're actually able to predict the Case-Shiller index 3 months ahead of it, right? And as markets are going to be slowing down a little bit when it comes to home price appreciation, it's really important to know, that you're hitting it right as that's changing, and making decisions based on that. So as our October report is showing, 19.5% year-over-year home price appreciation. It's absolutely been bonkers, but we are seeing a slowing of appreciation quarter over quarter. So this 5.3%, we're seeing things start to slow down a little bit, but still really, really strong compared to any other year.
For sure. That's beautiful information. This is something you guys should know. This is another piece of information. This is it's so eye-opening. I know, Corey, you're seeing this, and I'm sure that the wheels are starting to turn. So Kenon, tell us what we're looking at here.
Yeah, so with those home price appreciation, gains, that means that there's an incredible amount of equity out there for households. I mean, 27 trillion, over 27 trillion dollars worth of equity, and this appreciation that's happening month over month means that even homes that were maybe underwater, every month those homes are flipping from not having equity to now suddenly having equity, or maybe crossing over the threshold of being able to remove mortgage insurance, right? Crossing over LTV thresholds. This is changing every month, and it's so rapid that you need to have up-to-date alerts, right, to understand where the opportunities are and how to help best help your clients.
Yes.
And so so this 5% appreciation, if you go to the next slide, this 5% appreciation is where things really start to flip homes from not having equity to having equity. And if you look at the blue line for June, July, August, September, you see it was above 5% every single one of those months. So every month, homes are coming out of a no equity position to an equity position.
It's such important insight. And like Corey, when you see this, and I know we've been working together for a long time, so you know that we're giving you those insights every time somebody wasn't in an equitable position. We tell you the moment that they are. Like when you see this, and you think about being an organization that doesn't have this insight, how much of a disadvantage are they at not knowing this, but even worse, not having insight to this is happening in their own database? Like, how much of a disadvantage is it when you're blind to this?
I mean, I don't know that you can really calculate that, right? Like in terms of like it's 100% on the disadvantage scale. This gets me excited because it's showing all of these opportunities, right? This is one of the reasons why, partnering with Sales Boomerang, I love it. And as much as, I am always, what's the best way to put it? I'm always kind of like cheering for Sales Boomerang. At the same time, I'm kind of like, Sales Boomerang is great, but also if ACM can just keep it to ourselves, that would also be great, because it provides such an amazing strategic advantage, both in terms of revenue growth, but also, like I said earlier, if you are truly in the business to serve and help the individuals that you've already worked with, this provides you with an easy opportunity. It's one of the easiest wins to be able to reach out and say, hey, I have more value to add from what I've already done. And now you're starting to position yourself as that go-to mortgage advisor for life, right? Which is, at the end of the day, it's the end goal. And so I get super excited. I don't know if you can see where my smile is just constantly growing, because I'm just starting to think about all the opportunities, that we're going to be able to take advantage of, and all the opportunities that we're going to be able to provide to all of our clients that either need them because they may be struggling, or may need them because they want to do something like take a dream vacation, and now they have equity in their home that they might be able to leverage for a cash out refi, right?
Right. Yes.
So I get excited by this.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And so for everyone listening, comment, let people know where you're at. Are you currently getting insights on what's happening with your customers daily? Like, is this a regular thing? If not, let us know. If yes, let us know. Like, let's let everybody know where they're at today. So a little bit of a look at how Sales Boomerang operates, and what's the relationship here between Atlantic Coast and Clear Capital and Sales Boomerang. So for those that don't know, and again, you guys can let me know in chat if you know this or not, but your consumers in the United States will have 11 mortgage-related transactions. Sales Boomerang makes it possible for you to get in front of your consumer for all 11 of those. So if you meet them on the first, you get the next 10, right? You meet them on the fifth, you get the next 6. Very simple. That's what we do best in the industry. Now, it's important to understand too how consumers think and how this data, remember the name of this, how leading lenders are using this data to improve the customer journey. So you need to understand what the customer journey looks like to be able to improve it, right? You can't improve it if you don't understand it. Here's something to understand. 92% of your customers are going to choose the first or second lender they speak with. Well, that's what we aim to be the best in the world at, making you the first, at the very least, second to the conversation with your customer. So if you think about it, understanding the customer journey means this too. That means there are 8% of your customers that like shopping. Doesn't matter what you tell them in the first conversation. They're shoppers, okay? They want to go knock on doors. They want to talk to 20 people. Don't worry about that. Worry about the 79% that choose the first, or the 92 that choose the first or second. The 8% are going to do what they do. You can't change their mind. That's how they are, right? And then let's go to the very right, far right side here. This is the problem we're looking to solve. We want to change the number composition here. Instead of 1-8, then a percent sign, we want it to say 8-1, then a percent sign, right? So only 18% of your customers come back to you for the next loan, which means 82 do not. 82% go somewhere else. Our mission is for them to always choose you. That's where we aim. And then we work with great organizations like Clear Capital to make sure that we have the most recent, which, as Kenon will tell you, in data, recent means accurate. The most recent information, which is why Kenon mentioned that they refresh their data every 2 weeks, whereas others are a month to 3 months. Like literally, there are data companies that are selling data to you right now that is 3 months old, which in data world, Kenon, I don't even know what it is, like old. you know?
Yeah.
And so it's like dog years, right?
Right.
So what are those? How do we make sure that you're first? Well, you're seeing here that your database has a chance of creating nearly 12% of your database can have a mortgage-related event. So think about that. If nearly 12% of your database can have a mortgage-related event in 1 month, that means in the course of a year, more than 100%, right? That means you have people that are having multiple events a year that are related to their mortgage. You need that insight. You need that insight. You need that ability to come to the table. And most importantly, you want to have an offense-defense approach when it comes to data. You want offensive information and defensive information. How do I prevent my customer from leaving? How do I get my customer to not go shopping, right? That's offense. Stop them from shopping. They're going to choose me. And so you can see here things like a cash out notification. That's offense. You get to them before they go to the market. Things like a mortgage inquiry. That's defense. Hey, I see you're shopping. Let me make sure you remember why you chose us the first time around, right? So you need those insights inside your database or in your tech stack as you start to use data to improve that customer journey, right? That's what this whole conversation is about. These are the data points that can help you improve the customer journey and get you in front of your customer at the right time. So often we get this question. We're like, as a matter of fact, I just had this conversation downstairs just a minute ago where a bank asked, they're like, look, we need these insights, but how long will it be before we start to see the benefits of this data insight on our customer base? I hate, to make it any better, but it's day one. Like day one, this is a real client this is September numbers. Day one, they turned this on and 85 opportunities day one. Okay, you can see how it's broken down. Week one, 514 opportunities. Month one, nearly 2,000 opportunities. Now remember, these are the people in your database. Let's define database real quick. Customers, leads, active pipeline, people in your pipeline right now, turn downs, right? Those are all people in your database. It's not just customers. It's people that have walked into your store, but maybe haven't purchased anything. Those are also customers. I love to make the analogy that if you're standing in Target and you have a question about a product, they're not going to come over the announcement system and say, hey, some guy is looking for a question about this thing. No, they're going to say a customer in aisle 5 is looking for a question about this. They called me a customer before I spent a dime, right? All the people that have ever wandered into your store, they are customers. The question is, are they ready to buy? And if they are, how can you be there for them when they are ready to buy? So this leads us to this question. Is your data keeping up? Kenon, let's talk about what that means.
Yeah, so I think we had to go through the pain of trying to utilize 3-month-old data and realizing, what a terrible position that put us in, to motivate us to say, you know what, there's got to be a better way. It's just not, acceptable to have data that we weren't sure about the recency. We weren't sure about the compliance of the data, what we could use it for, whether there was reputational risk being created, and then certainly coverage, right? You also have to have coverage in the areas that you're doing business to know that you're not missing out on opportunity. So for us, when we went through that pain, we realized that we had to get source it ourselves. We had to do the hard work of building relationships across the country, direct at the source, and that led to us now having a near real-time connection of 93% of listing and sales data is now coming into our systems in a standardized way. Building up data on 150 million properties in the U.S. And then that's great that we've got data now coming in within the hour, right, of understanding what's happening in the local market. But
say within the hour.
Yeah. Within the hour, understanding what's happening on 93% of all listing activity in the country.
Unbelievable.
But that's great. But then if you're going to build a model on top of all that data, and the model takes a month to build, you just created the problem again, right? So we also had to think about how to build models that take advantage of that recent data and can be built fast enough, right? So that we can deliver that value to our customers right away. So utilizing machine learning, AI, all the buzzwords out there, but cloud computing, we built an AVM that builds in a couple hours. So now we're cutting our recent data, we're building that, and we're now refreshing our AVM weekly. So when we, I think we're going to go on to this next slide, which is this idea of, I think in the market right now, we hear a lot of lenders moving away from this idea of the bait and switch model, where we're going to show you a value on your home that's maybe accurate, maybe not accurate, but it's just to start the conversation, and then the the customer acts on that. Oh, wow, okay, if my home's worth this, then maybe I can take advantage of this opportunity. I can start my refi process or cash out process, and then they get into underwriting, and then the value comes back completely different, and now it's this missed expectations that's happened. What we're seeing is that lenders moving more towards present accurate data up front that sets the expectation, and then knowing that you can meet that all the way through. So now you're creating certainty for your customers because you've got recent data, you've got accurate analytics.
Did you see the report on Zillow and how so this is such a great, listen to what's happening here. Zillow said in a report of why they lost $400+ million, they blamed their own Zestimate, saying that their Zestimate was inaccurate, which is why they were buying homes at a much higher price. And then when they were putting them on the market, they were coming down at a lower price than they thought it would be, blaming their own Zestimate numbers. Now, listen, when we talk about Clear Capital, when you're listening to Kenon talk, he's not doing this because he wants to sell data to you guys. He actually cares. The entire company cares about the accuracy, the quality, the purpose behind it. Because if he gives you bad data, you're giving that to your customer, and you're not Zillow. You can't withstand a $477 million loss. You want accurate numbers, and you want somebody that's doing it not because they want to charge you more for the data, but because they want to feel good going to sleep at night. This is why we work with Clear Capital. This is why we are willing to be on screen and share this, because they actually care about the work they do at a deep level. And so as we move forward here, I just want to compliment you, Kenon, and Clear Capital, and also let folks know as we continue to have this conversation, like when Sales Boomerang delivers an insight, you're going to want to go deeper and start creating even better journeys. And when you start to go deeper on the data and you need extra fields, that's where Clear Capital comes in, right? You're like, I got it. I know I can act on this. I'm already going to do great with this information, but let me go deeper. What else can I find out? How can I make the message even clearer? How can I be more accurate in the things I'm delivering and more valuable to the person hearing this information from me? So just understand, there are a lot of data companies out there that claim to have good data. Look, again, throw this into chat. How many of you looked at a Zestimate and went, okay, that's about what this house is worth? Now, Zillow themselves are kicking themselves because they use their own technology, and their technology was not accurate on the data part of it. So data hygiene is so important. So
yeah,
why don't we keep going here?
Sure. I mean, and understanding, that, there isn't necessarily a one size fits all, right, for what is most important for a business, but at least having, the opportunity to understand all of the different changes that might be, important, and then be able to build triggers around that let you focus on what's most important for your business and for the products that you want to deliver, the value you want to create. So, we think about it in terms of market conditions, what's happening around the property, the way that the market's moving, or the neighborhood. We think about it in terms of the property's condition itself, right? As the property condition changes, that's often an indication that something else is about to happen, right? Whether someone's preparing, something for listing, whether it's an indication that it might be moving towards default or other things of course on the servicing side. But property condition is an important indicator. And then of course value changes, and then understanding why is the value changing, and what's happening around it.
Yeah, it's and one, just kind of going back to that again, the hygiene, the cleanliness, and everything you just displayed, from Corey, from your standpoint as a lender, and as you work with loan officers on your team. And again, please, people chime in if you have some thoughts on this. How often do consumers come in with an idea of what they think their property is worth?
I don't know that I would be the best one to answer that question. That would probably be better answered by our sales team. But I will say, and there's a couple of things I think that both of you are talking about, and Alex, you mentioned this kind of like the juxtaposition between acquisition versus retention. There's a couple of numbers or a couple data points, since we're talking about data, that I pulled, which is one of them was acquiring a new customer can cost 5 times more than retaining an existing customer. Increasing customer retention by 5% can increase profits from 25 to 95%. The success rate of selling to a customer you already have is 60 to 70%, while the success rate of selling to a new customer is only 5 to 20%. And so I think that with everything that we're talking about right now, with that client database, whether it's leads, past clients, any of those things, when you think about it like that, and I know that when we're segmenting our audiences inside of the databases of like, this is our past client maybe versus this is a lead, but even with the leads, those are people that are primed and teed up, ready to be clients, right? You've already had a conversation likely with them. And so I think that it's important to understand that, because I think we can get so focused on the acquisition piece. I need to get new clients. I need to get new clients. When in reality, if you actually just focused in on what you already have, you would be able to significantly increase not only your customer satisfaction, your overall revenue and business growth, but the time that you're spending on acquisition versus retention. I don't know about you, Alex and Kenon, but I would love to have more time in my day back. So if I can maximize my time and effort more efficiently, understanding that if I paid a little bit more time and attention and TLC to that retention piece of it, understanding how much of a difference that would actually make to my bottom line and to the service that I've already promised to those individuals. I mean, it's not even really a question to be asked. It's sort of rhetorical, right? And so I don't necessarily have this specific information you were asking, Alex, but I think that's something, at least what I shared, that I think is relevant to the conversation with what you two are specifically talking about when it comes to the retention piece and the data and all of that.
Yeah. Well, listen, I appreciate the honesty and not throwing in something that wouldn't add value to here, but there are folks on the call that may, or they're listening that could answer this. So throw in some numbers, like, or some percentages. If you guys know how often your customers come in and think they have the value of their property, this is a great example. And yes, Michael is asking for the Zillow report. We'll get that over to you so you can see it. Maybe we'll share it with everyone after this call if there's that much interest for it. But the reason I brought it up and the reason I asked Corey this question is, your team should be knowledgeable about what's happening in places like Zillow. And when they come to you, to really level set and say, look, we invest into data and technology that helps us get the accurate information for you. So using things that are publicly facing like Zillow, the world, just I don't want you to be surprised and act different. That's all. Like, set that level of expectation right there and then, so that your customer sees the honesty in you and that you're not going, yeah, let's use that, and then come back in underwriting it's something completely different. So make sure you know these things are happening, and partner. This is a very important thing. Partner with organizations that do the work up front to make sure that you're getting the most accurate and also most timely, because that's very similar in this data world, most accurate, most timely information, so you could be confident in what you're giving to your customer. So Kenon, let's come back to you here. What are we looking at here?
Yeah, really, it's I think as we talk about making predictions or what's happening right now, you've got to draw also from historical records, right? You have to draw from an understanding of a deep history, and so that's all this slide is illustrating, is that it's not just what's happening exactly right now. It's right. Having watched this long enough so that whatever predictions you're making, whether or not you were successful in the past, and that's all based on historical data too.
Yeah, and look, it's the ancestry.com model, right? It's like, look, yes, we care about how we are now, but what can we learn from history? What can we take from that and put it into our models and use that in conversation? It's all of that is relevant. Being able to talk about a property and maybe the construction it's had done. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Borrower, look, I know you're getting ready to move into this property. It had a basement built just this many days, whatever it is. Having any historical information that can be brought up in a conversation, Corey, you'll love this. This is why you're going to want to partner with Glen Capital, is we give you the insight to act now, but Kenon can show you, here's something you may want to bring up in conversation. And what does that do? Right? Remember, we're talking about using technology and data to improve the customer journey. So what does that do? It gives your customer confidence. If you know this about my property, I'm not even a customer yet. I wonder what you're going to do for me once I take a loan with you. Like, you're already giving me insight about what I'm thinking about doing. I may be living in this property looking for refi, and you may have something I didn't know. You know, the previous owners did this and this to it. No, I didn't know that. Well, here's some information for you. You should know, right? And so, and I promise you, when you start doing this as a regular basis, and make it part of your process, talk about that lifetime value. That's something that you don't hear a lot. I know Corey says it, and everyone at Atlantic Coast say a lot, which is why they have the success they have. Lifetime value. We say it a lot in technology. I know, Kenon, you use LTV in technology all the time. LTV in mortgage is typically the loan to value. But the way that Corey's talking about it, and lenders should start thinking about it, LTV is lifetime value of a customer. What is the lifetime value of this customer? Well, if you meet them on the first transaction, there's another 10 coming, right? At an average of, let's call it $300,000. Well, there's $3 million worth of transactions in your database from one person. If you have 10,000 of those people, you just do the math, right? And so, Corey, let's turn this over to you. We've been doing a lot of talking. We want to spotlight you and kind of give the voice of the lender and have some insights here. And of course, we're going to dive in and go back and forth with you on these topics. But why don't you share with us what we're looking at here?
So I think this is really reflective of what our mindset is, right? One of servant leadership, which is to say, how can we best serve our clients, and how can we use our experience and expertise to help guide our clients down the right path at the right time when it comes to purchasing or refinancing their home. So the question that I always ask is, how can we use our tools, our technology, and the data we're able to gather to provide a personalized, value-based 5-star experience that really delivers on our promise to always be there, to always help them manage and maximize the leverage that they have in their mortgage. So that being said, part of what that goal is to always position ACM, like I mentioned earlier, as the good news company, so that every time an ACM client is hearing from us, we have a great opportunity that truly benefits their current life situation and or their future goals. So, if you take into account, or given where the world has been, the past year, it's been insane. I kind of imagine an individual or family who may be struggling or could benefit from or better their current situation by lowering their mortgage insurance rate, reducing or eliminating credit card debt, paying down student loans, canceling their mortgage insurance, remodeling or making home improvements, creating an emergency fund, or like I talked about earlier, maybe even taking that much needed dream vacation. But regardless of any of those scenarios that I mentioned above, our goal is always to leverage data, which is in many cases coming from many of the alerts that we get from Sales Boomerang, to add value to our clients. And I think more importantly, to really help them improve and better their life. And so as a result, ACM is able to stay profitable by leveraging those opportunities that Sales Boomerang provides, which we otherwise would never have access to or be able to use. And so all of that to say that data really plays a huge role in our ability to deliver on what our promise is, which is to improve the lives of our customers, to always be there, to increase, on the business side of it, also increasing the profitability of ACM, which those two things can coexist. You can provide great service and care about people, and you can also be focused in on generating revenue and growing your business as well. And so I think really the slide that you're looking at, kind of what I just outlined, really ties into what you're seeing on the slide. It's our goal is to provide as much value and to deliver on that promise, and being able to leverage the data that we have, particularly through Sales Boomerang, really gives us the opportunity to be able to accomplish those goals in a fairly easy manner. And I think, Alex, unless you have something, or Kenon, you have something to interject, this kind of ties into the next slide.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, just for 2 seconds, I don't know if Kenon, you have anything. I love how on this slide, you are looking at not just home. There's a lot of mortgage companies are like, home, like that's it, that's where we play, that's all we can help with. But that's not true, is it? Like, I love that there are more non-home related jars on this slide than home. And I love that home isn't the biggest one, right? It's an important part of it, but we know that there are things that we have in our lives that choosing the right financial vehicle and the right financial partner can help us impact other parts of our lives. but it's not the only part of our life that we need to focus on. And I love that you showcase that in that one slide, that you can help impact all of those jars, not just one of those jars. And I hope everyone took note of that, because that's a great philosophy. It's not a technology you have to download. It's not something you have to learn. It's just a philosophy that you can adopt. You can help your customer, not just, but everything that is at home, which are all those things. So like you said, ties perfectly to slide number 2. Let's, what do we have here?
This is just one of the quotes that we got from some of the customer love that we've gotten. And I think this ties into, I'll just share a personal story. And that's, earlier this year, had some issues with my family. My mom actually ended up passing away in January, and that's not meant to drag the conversation down. But the reason why I share that is it really opened up my eyes to what we do, right? I've always loved the marketing. I love the element of being able to help people and all that. But when I went through that experience with my family at my parents' home, there was something that shifted inside of me where I really understood what home actually means. We went through, as I'm sure many can imagine, a range of different emotions of grief and sadness and all these things. But when I think about being at home, it allowed us to come together as a family. It allowed us to express our frustration, our anger, our grief, all of these very visceral and tangible feelings. And when I think now about, like I mentioned earlier, our ability to help people out, yes, there is a net positive result in terms of revenue generated and all that. But I think that, to me, that is a side benefit to our promise to be able to help these individuals. And so, when I think back to that moment, it really changed my perspective on these things, of really helping me understand truly what is the value of a home. Your home is your safe refuge. It's your place of comfort. It's your place to experience grief. It's your place to create memories that you're going to keep with you for the rest of your life. And when you have the ability, I know we're talking about data, but I think this is so important. We get fixated on data. Data in and of itself does not matter. Data, being able to transfer that into usable information that tells compelling stories, is what actually matters. And when I think about my own personal story, and I think about what going through that experience taught me, and how it helped me grow in a lot of painful ways, but it reminds me even now when I'm talking to our loan officers and when I'm thinking about the marketing campaigns and all that, I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about myself back then. I'm thinking about that person of what are they going through right now, especially last year with the pandemic and everything else. If you're able to help somebody leverage equity in their home, if you're able to help them cut out mortgage insurance, if you're able to give them a little bit money back in their pocket, think about how much of a significant difference you're able to make in your community and in the country as a whole. And I know that starts getting like very altruistic, but that really is the way that I look at this. It's not just about looking at data and dollars and cents. It's really looking at how can we shape and improve the lives of those around us, the lives of those that we've engaged with, and we've made a promise to be there and to help them. And so this slide really, I think, highlights that point of it, at least from my perspective. I don't know, Alex, if you have anything to jump in or to add there before we go to the next slide, but that's kind of my perspective on it.
Yeah, no, I love that perspective, and I like how what you're saying is we as lenders, right, the lending industry has the ability to influence good memories or tough memories, right? And so if you can help somebody experience a good that they're refinancing or buying, you can have that positive impact. And why not? You have a choice, right? And Kenon, and I really want to dig into this question. We might really just play with this question, but Kenon, what's interesting for you, we are rubbing elbows with the lenders as they're doing these loans. You're further away from the activity of the loan being funded. Do you ever think about the impact it makes on the end beneficiary, which is the consumer? Do you ever think about how your data pushed into the right hands creates this type of potential beautiful experience as Corey was mentioning?
Yeah, we think about it all the time, and I feel like Corey is like stealing my talk track. Like, do you work at Clear Capital? Like because our actual stated mission statement is we build confidence in real estate decisions to strengthen communities and improve lives. Improving
Oh,
lives is
look at
actually
that.
one of our core values, and maybe it's COVID going through the past year, but I've been having a lot of these epiphanies as well, Corey, which is like when I think about putting a number on someone's home, right? Putting a value number on it. I mean, as soon as we see a number, we start dreaming, right? And we start thinking
Hmm.
about what are all the options available to me? Which direction should I go? Oh wow, I'm in this position. Maybe I could, right? Whatever that's thinking about, your children, and maybe I could put money away here, or maybe I could, do this improvements, or maybe we could move right to this better location, and a lot of that's of course driven over the past year by opportunities to have remote work, and a lot of people like thinking about getting more space and moving out of the one place to another. Um, so yeah, we think about this all the time, and of course, one of the focuses that have been happening right now um, is around the idea of the housing gap, right, and around issues of our valuations, creating a disparate impact, right, from one community to another. How are we doing that? A lot of that
Hmm.
goes back to, again, the data. It goes back to, is data being collected in an accurate way, in an objective way, in a way that provides transparency all the way through the process, um, moving us out of the paper-based, system
Hmm.
that we've had around properties to a more digitized system, which then brings it all the way back to providing reduced friction, which means reduced loan costs, which means that there's a better secondary market value for loans, which means that we can provide more liquidity back to lenders to then provide better
Yes.
experience and options right back to the borrower, right? So ultimately, this is yes, we're talking about marketing, we're talking about how to reach out to people, but we're also talking about reducing friction all the way through the process. That makes the whole industry healthier and lets us, think about how we impact every community in a more equal way. So yeah, you're
Yes.
you're you're stealing my talk track. We should talk more after this because I'd love to dive into that more.
Love it.
So, so look, this is my favorite question of this entire conversation, and I want everyone listening to, if you're typing emails or text messaging, look at the screen, look at the question, and watch this conversation come to life. When we say why are so few good at this, the few we're talking about is you lenders. Why are so few of you so bad at managing your quality of data and what to do with that data? So if that just rubs you the wrong way and you feel offended, good, listen up, because this is where Corey is going to explain why are so few good at managing data and using data to increase and improve the customer journey, rather than just being like, well, I bought data, hopefully I can do something with it. Like, why are so few of you good at this? Corey, why are so few good at this?
I think this is such a good question. It's something that just being candid, it's something that I have struggled with at at times too. And I think the real answer is most marketing teams or lenders, with the exception of maybe some of the large national brands, struggle with where to even start, right? When it comes to data, it can be very dense, it can be complex, it's scattered across systems. And the one thing I've recognized when it comes to understanding where to start is first understanding what is your desired outcome, right? A lot of times I see people and they just kind of get started and they kind of go all over the place. But starting with the end in mind, I think, is one of the key things. When you understand where you want to be, then you're able to actually plot a course that helps you get there. The other thing is being able to develop a solid data marketing framework. And sort of my recommended approach is first starting with your strategic objective. Again, you need to understand your goals, where you're trying to go. The second is being able to either use a pre-existing database or develop a new one that contains the data that you need so you can properly clean it, organize it, and analyze it, like we've already kind of mentioned. The third step is being able to segment your target audience in that database. The fourth is developing marketing campaigns that speak to the need, the fears, the goals, all of those different intangible and tangible feelings and scenarios that allow you to segment out your audience. so that you can continue to progress them along that sales or lead funnel. And then the fifth step is executing on all the above that I just mentioned. And then most importantly, I would add with this is tracking and measuring what you're doing, because we measure what matters, right? If you're not measuring it, then you can't say that it actually matters. Now, all of that being said, I think the great news with Sales Boomerang, and this is again where I'm a champion of Sales Boomerang, is that Sales Boomerang really takes care of steps 1 through 3 and even 5. So partnering with Sales Boomerang, we know that you've already created the database, you segmented the audience out based upon the insights that you're able to gather, which ties into the strategic objective for each audience. And then you also help us measure the KPIs like conversions or some of the loan loss reports we're able to gather. And then I'll say even, when I reach out to our CSM at Sales Boomerang, there's always like a timely response. And it's always that mentality of how can I help you? I'm going to try and figure this out. Even if I don't know how to do this, I'm going to figure out how to help you, which I can tell you in comparison to, not to throw anybody under the bus, so I won't mention names, but in comparison to some of our other technology partners, it is not the same level of customer service. And so at the end of the day, this really leaves us with focusing on step 4, which is developing the marketing campaigns, right? And we have it connected to our CRM. So we're taking care, in terms of that framework that I just outlined, we're taking care of almost every step by simply partnering with, excuse me, we're taking care of almost every single step 1 through 6, with the exception of step 4, where we're developing the marketing campaigns. But even in those instances, being able to bounce ideas off of our CSM and other individuals at Sales Boomerang. And so I think that that's one of the beauties when it comes with partnering, with Sales Boomerang, is being able to gather all of that data easily and immediately being able to execute on it, which ties into, Alex, what you and Kenon were saying earlier, which is trying to execute on 3-month-old data. It's almost meaningless. There's no point. So being able to have all of those things in that sort of data marketing framework that I outlined already taken care of for you is a thing of beauty. So to me, I think that's one of the reasons why so few are struggle with it. And then I think that sort of provides a recipe for, if you're figuring out how do I get started, or maybe I don't have as much resources in terms of personnel or revenue, whatever it is, or capital, all of those things. I mean, this is where it's kind of like a no-brainer for me, as far as, well, here's the problem, here's the solution to solve your problem.
So I love how you just put that together. So for everyone listening, I think this is a great moment to kind of step back and ask yourself, how do you feel about how good you are with using data to increase the experience for your customer? And I think you put it so eloquently in that, for those that don't know where to start, Sales Boomerang is definitely a great place, because we've done all of that frameworking for you. And then as you start getting good at utilizing the automated solution, and you're starting to see your database come to life from this and have the experience you want, that's when you start to layer in the clear capital relationship. You've got the basics going. Yes, it can be very scary and daunting and overwhelming to think about what to do with data and where it goes, what it complements and how to use it. But once you start to see it working for you, you become open to the ideas that there's more. And when you're open to the ideas that there's more, that's when a partner like Clear Capital comes in and says, let's go even deeper. Let's improve every metric. Let's make every conversation more valuable and give you more insight into the properties and into the people that you're working with, so that you can be there for them for the next one even earlier with even better advice. But again, without, like you said, I love how you put this, Corey. It can be scary. You don't know. You're like, there's so many data companies. I should buy it all. Where do I start? How do I capitalize on it? What do I do with it? So yes, you can definitely start to get into data with someone like Sales Boomerang, but you want to expand your horizons. You want to continue to create that swell of opportunity and make all of your data even better, all of the records even better over time. And so look, I want to be conscious. We have about 10 minutes left, a little less than 10 minutes left. I want to open this up for Q&A. I know we have some other questions on here, but I would love to, for just a moment, before we go to the next one, that might be the last one that we do. Let me see if there's any questions from the audience. Anything you guys are hearing? Maybe you want to hear Corey explain a little bit more of how they utilize data to improve the journeys. Maybe you want to hear from Kenon how they make sure they get it so timely and why it's so accurate. And maybe Kenon can throw out some names of organizations that use their data as like a daily thing, as part of every breath they take in an organization. Maybe you want to hear from us about the ROI. Is there anything you guys are hearing us talk about that you'd like to see us discuss before we kind of close this out? So don't be shy, jump in there. Again, I know we've been keeping a good talk track, but if there's anything you want to hear, let us know. Otherwise, I'm going to skip over a couple, because there's one question at the end here that I thought was really, really good that we discussed earlier today. All of these are good, but there's this one right here. I love this one. I really love the way, and I love your explanation on this one. So I'm not seeing any questions come in. We've really wowed everyone. They're hanging on to every word. They don't want to disrupt the track.
They're speechless.
Speechless. I love this. So being speechless is all good. So last question here. I love how you did this. Who is the customer? Now listen to this answer, guys and gals, everyone that's on this track. Listen to the answer to this question. Who is the customer? Now, many of you are going to throw out different things, but watch how Corey and ACM really think about their business and their customer.
Yeah, so I think a lot of times people think about the customer and that's synonymous with borrower, right? Like my clients who I work with. The way that I think about customer is threefold. And the analogy I like to use is kind of the Russian doll. On the outside, you see the borrower, the client. But then on the middle part of it, to me, I look at our loan officers as our customer as well. And then on the inner part of it, our executive team. I think it's easy to focus in on everything that we've been talking about, and we're so focused on the borrower, but you can't even get to that point until you get the buy-in of the executive team. And then you get the buy-in from the loan officers from the standpoint of, just because we build it does not mean that they're going to come. I think that all of us have learned this who have done anything with technology, working with sales teams and anything else. And so, yes, the end goal is to be able to leverage these tools, whether it's Clear Capital or Sales Boomerang, to affect positive change, both for the client and also to the bottom line for your organization. But the other part of it is understanding that customer, or the definition of customer, is really threefold. It's the client, it's your sales team, your loan officers, and is your executive team. You need your executive team to buy into the vision that you have, or that the opportunity presents itself through Sales Boomerang, through Clear Capital. You need to be able to train your loan officers or your sales team and help them understand the value behind it so that they get excited. Like us talking about this and seeing all the different opportunities gets me excited. I think that for most people, it gets them excited as well, because you start to paint a picture and you start to tell a story of, here's where you are, here's where you can be. And then from there, the end net result is being able to make a positive impact and influence on your actual client borrowers' lives. And so for me, when I think of customers, I think of the executive team, our loan officers, and then our borrowers.
Love that. I love that. I think, as we wrap this up, what a wonderful visual representation of who is your customer. Well, this doll is my customer, but this doll has something on the inside, right? And it's not just the surface layer, it is depth, and thinking about that way. And I love how you earlier were saying that, there's no real order. It could have started with loan officers inside as borrower, inside as executive team. It doesn't matter. Your whole point was that when you look at one thing, that's not just the only customer there. There's so much more there. So I hope everyone sort of takes that analogy and brings it home and explains it to their teams. Kenon, before we wrap up, anything you want to leave the audience with? If you could have one thing, if you could share one thing here. Thank you, Michael. Michael's saying good job to us. Thank you, Michael. If there's one thing you want to leave the audience with, what would you leave them with?
Yeah, I would just double down on that last point on the people part of it. I mean, you have to help people in order to help people, right? Or thinking of it like, if you want to be a leader, you have to empower others to lead, right? And I think that's the right approach. We provide tools, that help help our teams, right, do an even better job for the people that we want to ultimately impact. but you can't skip over people, you know, to get to that end goal. You've got to help everyone else along the way. So yeah, super appreciate the time today and ability to talk about where things are headed and what works.
Awesome. That's fantastic, Kenon. I'll say this, don't fly blind, right? Don't fly blind. There's so many resources. You no longer have to be a Rocket or a Quicken, or which is the same thing, or a Loan Depot to have access to great partners and great resources. So don't fly blind. Don't underserve your customers, overserve them, and care about them as much. If you can, care about them as much as Corey and the ACM team do. They do everything they can to care about the customer, not just the loan, but the customer. So you can do the same thing. We thank you all for coming and joining us. Corey, thank you so much. You were fantastic today. Thank you for all those insights. Kenon, thank you for all your insights and support. And we appreciate you all. Thanks everyone for coming. And we'll see you guys on the next conversation. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.